What's going on, guys? Rank Up Gaming here, and welcome back to the video. Of course, today it is a Sunday, which does mean another episode of a weapon guide. Now, you guys really love this series, and it's one that I really will continue because it helps you out with using any gun in Battlefield, and it's just cool to know the history behind these guns. Now, for this week's episode, we're talking about the Autoloading 8.35 and 8.25. Now, in real life, this rifle is called the Remington Model 8 and was developed by John Browning, the John Moses Browning, in 1900, believe it or not, and at that time he actually sold the rights to Remington, who after that point made 3 different variants based upon his design. The Model 8 wasn't actually developed until 1906, at which point it was produced in 1911. Now, in terms of the rifle itself, it's pretty revolutionary. The operation is something that we actually see similarities compared to guns now, and there's tiny little things like the safety of either and the way it loads and tiny little things like that, which we actually use a lot now. And it was also the first semi-automatic rifle that was commercially available in the United States. Now, it was typically a hunting rifle, and this is mainly because it was very accurate. It was pretty powerful depending on what variant you had, but it only had a 5-round magazine. Now, the problem is that it wasn't suited for war. Having only a 5-round magazine means that, of course, you can't exactly do much against large groups of enemies, and also at certain fires, certain uses even, it overheated. So if you used it over and over again, the gun would get too hot to use, and it just would not be safe. So you have to stop using it for a bit, maybe even change out components of the rifle and use a different one. And for those reasons, it wasn't really used in World War I. There was no major order made by any army for rifles like this. Maybe some US soldiers bought them over, if they were hunters maybe, and they bought them over and used them during the war, but there was no major order where they were used during the war. But they are extremely popular rifles even now. Even though the recoil is extremely heavy and hurts your shoulder quite a bit, they are extremely popular, like I said, and will sell for a hell of a lot. Now, a few of these aspects that the rifle has in real life do translate over to Battlefield 1. It has the fastest rate of fire out of any DMR, which is 359 rounds per minute. Now, this is sort of realistic to the real world one because the design allowed it to be fired extremely fast, basically like a full automatic rifle, of course, semi-automatic though. Now, another thing that is in Battlefield 1 that is similar to real life components is that there are 2 variants which are tied for the highest damage, but there's one variant that has a smaller bullet and does less damage. In real life, these guns were designed to shoot anything from a .25 up to a .40 to a .300 Savage round, which is a massive bullet. So, seeing as there's so many different variants of caliber size for these rifles, it's pretty cool they've actually done this in Battlefield and added in 3 different variants, one of which has a smaller bullet compared to the other 2. So, of course, because that one variant has a smaller bullet, it means it's going to do less damage than the other 2, which have the same size bullet. This isn't a major feature, and honestly, it turns out the one with the smaller bullet is actually the better one. But for the most part, this is something we don't see in Battlefield. So, like I said, it is actually pretty cool to see that they implemented this, which is a real-world feature. So now the first variant, the 8.25 Extended, has a box magazine with a grip, which means it has better spread decrease. Now, this is actually my favourite one. Pretty much all aspects of this rifle work perfectly together and make it a pretty damn good rifle. Now, the maximum damage for the Extended is 38 out to 11 meters, which means a 3-shot kill to 70 meters, which is perfectly decent, and the minimum damage is 21, but this means that there's a 4-shot kill at 18 to 27 meters, and then a 5-shot kill at 28 and onwards. This is kind of odd to have 3 different sort of standpoints for maximum bullets to kill, but at the same time kind of makes sense because of the size of the bullet. But because of the fast rate of fire, the perfectly manageable damage, and the surprisingly good accuracy, this is arguably the best rifle. It's definitely more effective at close to medium range, definitely nowhere in long range. You can definitely kill something at long range, but it's really not designed for that. But because of the 15-round magazine, this one is seriously usable, and I would say is the best one by a long shot. Now, the next variant, the factory variant, is obviously the standard iron sights one with a 5-round stripper clip magazine. Now this variant is essentially pointless seeing as you have the extended. They basically have the same accuracy, with the extended having a better spread decrease, but the 5-round magazine on the factory basically means that you can only really kill one person because the maximum damage is 42 at 34 meters, which is a 3-shot kill to 47 meters, and the minimum damage is 30 to a 52 meter distance. And of course then this means a 4-shot kill to 48 meters. So in other words, you can't kill more than one person with one magazine unless you get headshots. And how many times do you actually get headshots when you're in a close gunfight? It never really happens. Unless you're sat on a rock and you see somebody or you sneak up behind somebody, you never really get enough headshots to kill them quickly. Now the next variant, the marksman variant, shares the same damage, but this one has a scope and a foregrip, and this means it improves accuracy, making it more of a sniper variant. Now again, this one has a 5-shot magazine, and seeing as you're going to use this sniper one mostly at long distance, a 4-shot kill, so a 4-shot kill with a 5-round magazine means you only have one bullet left, meaning you have one chance to miss. Of course, unless you get a headshot, but again, how many times do you get a headshot unless you're perfectly aiming for it and the person's staying perfectly still? It doesn't exactly happen a lot. So in other words, at any range this rifle really is not effective if you pick the factory or marksman variants. Only one miss for both of these variants means it's not really effective unless you're super close, 34 meters, which again isn't super close I guess, but it's definitely not a distance where you're going to win a gunfight anyway, because most of the time there are people that are shooting back at you, they're moving back and forth, and with 5 rounds you have to take every single shot slowly, but then people can make it easier to kill you. So for this reason I would say flat out avoid the marksman and factory variants and just use the extended variant every single time I get a chance. It's actually a very good rifle to use, it's a lot of fun, but the other two are just entirely pointless, and there's so much better rifles out there for what both of these are designed to do. In some way it's kind of sad that such a historic rifle is so terrible in Battlefield. I mean, the 5-round magazine makes sense, but I kind of wish the damage was a little bit different to make it more useful, but then again the 1906 Mauser rifle has the same problem. So regardless of two of these variants being terrible with this rifle, I hope that you did enjoy the video. There'll be a few changes up in terms of series coming in the next few days. Tuesday's going to have a new series, and Thursday will eventually have a new series. I already have the idea for that series, but it's going to come in eventually, but hopefully you enjoy that. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Like Up Gaming, out.